Our next slot is called Call to Action, and I'd like to welcome Lisa and Eve, two colleagues of mine who are going to share a little bit about citizen science and some surveys you can get involved with that Keep Scotland Beautiful is going to be running. So over to Lisa first.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay, Juliet?
Yep. Okay.
Perfect. So my name's Lisa Snedden. I'm the acting coordinator for Our Heritage, Our Future, but my background was in primary teaching. So I use citizen science a lot when I was teaching, but it's not just for young people and kids, it's for everybody. But I thought I would give you an overview of what citizen science is, how you can get involved, and give you some ideas of where to get started. Okay, next slide, please, Juliet. So very basic question, what is citizen science? It basically involves anybody gathering, recording and analysing the scientific data, and it's for all members of the public to get involved. Doesn't matter what age you are, it doesn't matter what you got for science at school. It's a great way to unleash your inner scientist and collect data that can have real world impacts. So this might be a massive, large-scale national campaign, or it might be just looking to your own space, your Beautiful Scotland Garden, your neighbourhood space, and just learning more about what is in there, plants, animals, creatures, that kind of thing. Next slide, please. So the benefits of citizen science, you'll recognise most of them, being gardeners, but things like getting outdoors, working with other people. There's a sense of achievement that comes when you're working towards that common goal, focusing on a project, developing new skills, but also sharing the skills and knowledge you already have with each other. You'll learn more about your local place, and that can maybe inform your future plans, or of course that data can contribute to national and international studies. Next slide, please. So this is a statistic that came from our friends at the Conservation Volunteers, that nearly 90% of all species and habitat records collected in the UK come directly from citizen scientists. And the next one, please. So it's also not a new thing. You'll recognise this chap, Charles Darwin. So he wrote The Origins of Species in 1859. He was what was known as a gentleman scientist, and he built the theory of evolution with evidence supplied by hundreds of citizen scientists across the world. In all, he sent something like 15,000 letters in correspondence with plant breeders, with explorers, with gardeners, diplomats, and that's what helped him gather all of his data together. Next slide, please. So one of the biggest well-known citizen science project is the RSPB's Big Garden Birdwatch. So in this, thousands of people across the country take the time to count the birds that visit their garden or a local park. The RSPB provides spotters guides to help you identify the birds if you're not too sure. And then you record what you see online. And this provides a vital snapshot of how the UK's garden birds are faring, which species are thriving, those that are struggling. And this kind of data would be impossible for the RSPB to gather themselves. So they're really dependent on citizen scientists. If you do want to take part, the next one is 28th of January, 2024. Next one, please. So apart from these national campaigns, there are websites such as iRecord, and this is where you can record the wildlife in your area and submit those sightings. Now, you can see here that they have actually got a target for crane flies, grasshoppers and bush crickets, ground beetles, ladybirds and soldier flies, but it doesn't mean that that's all you're looking out for. You can just record everything that you see in your local area. Next slide, please. iNaturalist UK is the same. You just set up an account and you start recording your sightings, and all of the data from iRecord and iNaturalist is available for national bodies to come and have a look and use your data. So it's kind of nationally important. And the next one, please. So you could look, you might have a particular interest. You might particularly want to look for one species. So for example, here is a single species survey. This is European ladybirds. Again, you can register, you log in. They also provide you with spotter sheets, so you can really know what you're looking for. And the next one, please. And it's not just bugs. We've also got our furry friends. So this survey's been going around for a long time, depending where you are in the country. Looking for red squirrels might be particularly relevant to you. And the next slide, please. Okay, and we're not just focused on creatures, we're also looking at plants. This particular one's about Britain's hedgerows, but you can also find surveys on things like invasive species and also about the impacts of climate change on plant health, and there's plenty more out there. And next slide. And it's not just the natural world. My project is in heritage, so I had to find a heritage-based citizen science project, and this one's been developed, the Monument Monitor. This is with Historic Environment Scotland, where you can actually go out and monitor the condition of heritage sites round about you. And the next slide, please. And of course, it's not just on this planet. NASA are also looking for citizen scientists to help hunt for planets and to spot clouds on Mars. And all you need for that is a laptop or a mobile phone. So quite easy to get involved with. And the next one, please. So that's just a taster of the surveys that are out there. There is thousands. Okay, there's so many you can get involved in. It can be quite overwhelming. But one of the main questions that we tend to get asked is, but what if you don't know what the species that you're looking for looks like? So usually the big campaigns give you a spotter's guide, but you can also pick up things like these. These are from the Field Studies Council. And they give you, so this is the front cover of them. Inside, they've got a step-by-step on how to identify, like a flow chart. You can use that. You can also find loads of reference books at your local library or bookshops. There's a lot out there. And of course, digital age, there's always an app. So the next slide, please. So there's loads of apps out there. I mentioned earlier iNaturalist and iRecord, so they have an app. They also have online identification as well. So if you put a photograph up because you don't know what it is, people will help you find what it is. There's also apps specifically for looking at particular species. So the Merlin helps you identify birds from their song. You've got mammal IDs and trackers. The Woodland Trust have got an app about identifying trees. The one at the bottom there, number 7, that website gives you lists and lists of specific species ID and tracker apps. So that's quite a good place to get started. Next slide, please. So as I said, there's a lot of information out there. I'm hoping to just give you a bit of a taster of what's out there. But how to actually get started, I would just take some time, have a look at some of the links that we're going to send out with this presentation, pick one and have a go. Just go out and do it and start recording it. Download your ID and recording apps beforehand though. There's nothing worse than being out and you found something and you have to download the app, or you can't find it, or you're struggling to use it. So familiarise yourself with them. You might want to put together a small kit. Things like magnifying glass, maybe a wee trowel if you're doing a bit of digging, your spotter sheets, your books, your charged mobile phone, a snack. Always good to have a snack when you're going out into the garden. A scarf, gloves. Scotland, you never know, a wee waterproof jacket never goes amiss. And also just encourage others to get involved. So if you lead a group, you'll always want to familiarise yourself with what you're doing before you invite other people in. But once you do, it's a great sense of achievement when you all get together to do something. And the next one, please. This is just a slide full of links. And like I say, there's so many more out there. And this is just a taster to get you started. And the next slide, and the last one. Thank you so much. So that has been a whistle-stop tour of citizen science. I hope you've been inspired to unleash your inner scientist. I'll now hand over to another colleague who's going to tell you about some of the projects that Keep Scotland Beautiful offer. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Eve, are you there?
I am, yeah. Can you hear me? Is that okay?
Yes, you can. Over to you.
Perfect. So as Lisa said, there's lots of different citizen science things happening out there, and I'm here to talk to you specifically about the Upstream Battle campaign that I have just joined as Keep Scotland Beautiful. So I started about a month ago, so please excuse me if I can't answer all your questions. But yeah, so the Upstream Battle campaign, it's all about the river and stopping marine litter. Hopefully, that's what we're aiming to do. It's very ambitious, obviously can't solve it all now, but we want your help in doing so. Next slide, please. So 80% of marine litter comes from the land. So we can help tackle the problems from being on land, wherever we live, if you're near a river or a waterway or a canal. So we're trying to prevent marine litter at the source. Next slide, please. And we're doing this by three main focuses. So we're trying to raise awareness of the issue. And I'm sure many of you are aware, I've already heard some of the groups talk about litter picking. So you're all aware that we have a problem with litter and how it affects our natural environments and why we want to stop it. We want to gather evidence. So this is where the citizen science aspect comes in. So going out, taking surveys and reporting them to us so that we can look at preventing litter, looking at behaviour change and other means as well. And we want to inspire action. So by talking to communities, helping them take action, we want to inspire more action, because I think when you see people litter picking, you might think, oh yeah, I could do that. Or if you're doing citizen science, you know, why can't I do that too? Next slide, please. So some of you may have heard of the Arica litter sink. So that's an example of, you know, how bad the problem is and how the litter coming from cities and from towns and settlements is ending up in our rivers and then washing up on all over the world. And there's apps where you can track where litter comes from and what you might find. So it's a massive problem. And I don't know if some of you are aware of plastic pollution, and recently reports coming out showing that plastic pollution is now such an issue that it's now being found in our bloodstreams, plastic. So it's horrible, and I'm not here to scare anyone, but we are trying our best to try and tackle litter and trying to do our bits to help. Next slide, please. So in July 2021, we did some polling and across the Tayside that revealed that half of the people were surprised about the sources of marine litter. So if you haven't heard the fact that 80% of marine litter comes from land, I don't know if that surprised you, but this surprised quite a lot of people. But 81% of people were interested in learning what actions they can take. So we have designed a survey that you can do near your local waterway to try and take action and help us produce reports from it. Next slide, please. The Upstream Battle campaign first launched on the Clyde in 2018, and that was really successful. And we managed to engage with lots of community groups there to help us do some litter picking and look at where problematic areas might be. And then also on the Tay in 2021, we also launched and engaged with many different people and took some surveys as well there. Next slide, please. So this is an example of a page in one of the reports. All the reports you can find on our website, but this is one, I think, from the River Tay. And this just shows you a snapshot of what we tried to produce at the end. So you can see down at the bottom there, the top 5 littered items in all of those places that were kind of we focused on, where we could get engagement from communities and the public to take these surveys. And so you can see at the start, it kind of turns into, so the household, more household types of litter. And then towards the river, the end of the River Tay, you can see it becomes more wet wipes and period products, and that's probably indicating that there's some sort of sewage issue there, and potentially other items might be washing in to the mouth of the river. Next slide, please. So the Upstream Battle, we've now lucky enough to be able to secure funding to take it national. So myself and another colleague were employed about a month ago now to try and engage more communities and increase surveying across the whole of Scotland, because obviously litter is not just a problem on the Clyde and Tay, it's a problem everywhere, and we want to try and capture what litter is out there and what types on rivers near you. So we are looking to engage with as many people as possible on wherever you live, if you're near a waterway or a burn. So it doesn't have to be a main river, it can be a tributary too. Next slide, please. Thank you. Sorry, there's a couple little animations, so you might have to click through these ones. So we're trying to engage communities, young people, so you can now do volunteering with Duke of Edinburgh as part of your way to earn your award. So we're encouraging young people to take surveys as part of that. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the survey now. Next slide, please. So our survey you can download on your mobile phone. First of all, you have to create an account. So you can do that on your computer or on your mobile phone. And then from that, you can either do the survey on your phone, or you can do it by printing out our survey sheet. Quite a lot of people do find a survey sheet easier because you can see all the categories, you don't have to scroll. So you pick a 100-meter transect, and you can just basically tell us what litter you're finding in that area. So on the survey, they'll have if you just click to the next page, sorry. On the next page, here you can see the litter and the categories here. So all you have to do is choose your 100-meter transect, choose your width, depending on what type of area you're in. So we obviously encourage people to pick a safe line that they don't go over, because we don't want anyone falling into the rivers. So just make sure you stay back, and just tell us what you're seeing within the area. So you just tally it up there, and then you go home and then you log that data with us, and tell us where you took it, so then we can build up this map and this picture of litter around the whole of Scotland, hopefully. Next slide, please. So yeah, that's the online portal there where you can log it, and it's really helpful for us, and also you can see your data as well. So you can download all your surveys and you could see all the trends that might be happening where you're taking it. And it means that if you were doing it as a group, you could all then compare together all this the data that you're looking at. Next slide, please. So we're trying to do as much as we can with community engagement. Next slide, please. So we created some anchor groups on the Tay and the Clyde, and these were groups that said to us, look, we really want to do something about this problem. Can we get some support from you? And we will try and do regular surveys along the river so that we can monitor trends. So what we're trying to do now is reach out to other groups and see if anyone would be interested in taking some surveys. Ideally, it would be nice to have people surveying a section of a nearby bank on a riverway, a waterway, or a river every season, I think, is at the minimal that we would like. So you can see spring, summer, autumn, winter, and the trends that might be happening. Obviously, the more, the better. But we're hoping that some people might be active enough to do that. But we've also got a week of action coming up that I'm just going to talk about a little bit as well. But yeah, we want to engage with communities, and we have in the past provided litter picking equipment, training on how to do surveys. So if anyone was really keen, then I am willing to talk to everyone and how we could help support you if you were really keen to do more litter surveys and cleanups around your area. Next slide, please. So we have our week of action coming up on January the 20th to the 28th. And I know it's the winter time, but maybe perfect because all this gardening, the winter is a time where everything rests and you prepare for what's to come. And so whilst you're doing that, maybe we could get out and look at surveys and surveying litter along rivers, if you are keen, and I hope you are. So I'd hope that some of you would be keen to try out citizen science and try and do our survey. It takes about 15 minutes, I would say, on average, depending how littered the area is. And we know that it's cold. So if you can do a survey, just a survey, that's great. If you can pick up the litter afterwards, obviously that's even better. But we want everyone to stay safe, and because we know we're working near water. But yes, I hope you can join us. And of course, we have the Spring Clean coming up too, and that's going to be launched on the 15th of March to the 28th of April. And I know that some of the groups have been engaged with that week, not a week, it's quite a long time, but hope you can join the Spring Clean. And if you have any questions, my colleague Laura, who you might know from Spring Clean, she organises that. But if anyone would like to talk to me about how you can get involved with the Upstream Battle campaign, then just email us on that email there. And we also have a Facebook group, so please feel free to join that, and that's called Upstream Battle Action Group. So that's welcome to anyone, and introduce yourself on there and tell us why you're passionate about litter. Thank you very much, and hope you have a nice rest of your meeting.